Good day, teachers. Thank you for your attendance. I want to assure you that at the end of this session, we are all going to be re-energized as we go into the classroom. This session is going to be rewarding and it is going to be eye-opening. It's a series of workshops. It's one in a series of workshops on developmentally appropriate practices. This one is going to be dealing with interactions and relationships with children between the ages of 3 and 5. The objectives of these sessions are: 1, to provide us with guidance on our practices; 2, to allow us to reflect on our practice; and 3, to give us an idea as to how to bring about positive change as it relates to our practice. Let's get started. And as we do, we need to put certain things in perspective. Our practice, we talk about our practice, developmentally appropriate practice. The things that we do as practitioners are guided by standards. So an important question is, what are standards? Well, standards are guidelines. They are founded upon research. They are streamlined based on children's ages, based on their development, and they have the purpose of setting a foundation which is going to guide the program that is going to contain the curricula. It is going to contain the assessments. It is going to contain instructions, and it is going to contain interventions that we are going to use within the service. So how do we provide that quality service which we are talking about to the children in our care? Well, effective early childhood practitioners must know and they must understand how children develop. Brain research tells us that an early childhood practitioner must plan the curriculum that is going to factor in the varied spectrum of abilities as well as interests which children have. And once a practitioner is able to do so, he is able to, or she is able to, pay close attention to the activities which are going to meet the child where he or she is at. The practitioner is going to be able to cater to the child's needs, his or her interests, where he is cognitively, where he is physically, where he is socially, and where he is emotionally. So there is no way of getting away from interacting or having a relationship with children. After all, we are early childhood practitioners. So it means, therefore, that we must have characteristics which are going to set us apart and place us in a position where we are able to provide children with that quality of service that we speak about. But in addition to these characteristics, we must have knowledge, we must have an understanding, we must have skills, and we must have the training which would allow us to provide children with the quality of service that they require. The quality of service that is going to enable them to succeed not only now, but later on in life. So why exactly this standard on relationships and interactions with children? Well, as I mentioned earlier on, there is research, a certain level of research that is involved in what we do as practitioners. And part of research is collecting data. And as I have gone through the classes, I've noticed a few things that I would like to bring to our attention, which is going to affect the standard of service that we provide for the children. What exactly is research saying? And how is that research standing up against what is happening in the classroom? That is our focus right now. Researchers have indicated that the interaction between a caregiver and a child has implications not just for when the child is in the classroom, but when the child has left the classroom and later on, much later on in life. And over the years, practitioners have been given information that is based on the researcher researchers are putting forward. So the NAEYC, that is the National Association for the Education of Young Children in the United States, the largest organization of early childhood practitioners, has underscored the importance of the relationships and the interaction between early childhood practitioners and children. In addition to that research, documents on the importance of securing attachments and positive attachments between children and their caregivers has been put forward by researchers, and it explains the impacts of these relationships. It shows academic achievements for children, increased academic achievements for children. It shows increased social competencies, and it shows a number of other areas that show or that indicate that indeed the relationships and the interactions between practitioners and children is significant. So it means then that there are appropriate and there are inappropriate practices that can happen in a classroom. Let's take a look at a few of them. One of the things that is noted is that sometimes there is very little communication between families and the early childhood practitioners. That would be the inappropriate practice. What must happen? There must always be that communication between the two parties for children to be impacted positively. What can you do? As a practitioner, you can ensure that there is a communication book, for example, that takes information to and from the school, from home back to the school. There can be bring a parents to school day, where every child is expected to bring their parents home so that the parent gets to see what is happening in the classroom, and then there will be interaction between the school and the home, even more interaction. Or in addition, there could be a WhatsApp group. We're into technology, WhatsApp groups, Skype groups, so that there is always this interfacing between home and the school. Another inappropriate practice would be that of the unavailability of programs or opportunities for lifelong learning. Well, that is an inappropriate practice. An appropriate practice, however, would be that there is quality learning in the environment. How can we do that as practitioners? Well, we can create activities such as fairs where we invite professionals on the outside to come in and share their experiences so that families, children can recognize the implications of learning for the future. An inappropriate practice would be to only focus on large groups of children and to teach just that large group. However, the appropriate practice would be to ensure that smaller groups are given attention. How could you do that? Well, the teacher has to be observant, and early childhood practitioners are always looking for what children are or how children are developing. And so to look for the smaller groups. Another inappropriate practice would be to interact only with large groups. Children learn, and research has shown that children learn when there is small group interaction. So one-on-one interaction is best. So how do you as a practitioner facilitate that to ensure that children develop to the highest standard? Well, you must be observant. And so in your interactions with your entire group, you are also trying to recognize where individual children are at. And so there may be times when you would of necessity need to break off the groups, the small groups, and meet a child individually and reach that child where he or she is at and make the learning meaningful for that individual child. Another one of the inappropriate practices we must focus on is that of not seizing opportunities. There will always be moments, teachable moments, where as practitioners we have to be so focused that we recognize, hey, this is an opportunity to bring in a lesson. It may be a socially appropriate lesson or a problem-solving lesson. How exactly do we do that as practitioners? We bring in the appropriate practice. Well, we can institute a helper system within the classroom, and we can rotate the helpers every time, so that one child may be responsible today for closing the door or closing the windows or getting something from a shelf. Tomorrow, that responsibility, he or she responsible. The children learn that they are responsible for allowing things to run in the classroom. They learn that they are part of the classroom, and they all feel each have a role to play in of the classroom setting. And inappropriate practice, not showing any interest in a child's achievements, having reached particular milestones. The practitioner is always excited when a child reaches his developmental milestones. How exactly do you do that? Again, observation comes in very, very handy. You are observant where a child is at, where a child has moved to, and you make those observations, create a portfolio, and present that to the parents so that the child feels, hey, I have achieved something, my mom is proud of me, my teacher is proud of me. So we've identified that there are a number of benefits that can be accrued when we interact with children and build relationships with children. Some of these benefits include encouraging children to participate or to move or to develop at their own level, at their own pace. It also encourages them to build confidence and independence. In addition to that, children learn that they are accepting diversity because everybody learns and develops at a different pace. We are teaching children that everybody is important. When we interact with children, we build relationships with children, we are ensuring that every child's needs and interests are met. So the takeaway is ensure that the relationships and the interactions that we have with children are positive and that they are long